Long day though.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Glad to have you all today. I want to continue what we were talking about last week, which is dealing with what we consider to be setbacks. Let me read our definition of setback again, see if y'all agree with this. A reversal, a check in progress, a serious setback related to the pace of your progress. A problem, a difficulty, an issue, a hitch, a complication that leads to being upset, disappointed, on and on and on. We all of us experience setbacks. It's part of life. They happen frequently. And I believe that how we deal with them determines our lives. You know, I really think that far more than what happens to us in life, what determines our lives are how we respond to what happens to us. And one of those things we have no control over. The other we have absolute control over. And there's a lot of people who talk about how unfair life is. Oh, all the bad things happen to me. So look at all this good stuff that's happening to so-and-so. And that it's like, life is so easy for them and everything goes their way. And, it's just not fair. And if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. I'm just so put upon. But if we respond to everything that happens, maybe not initially, maybe initially there's pain, there's disappointment, there's shock or surprise. Sometimes things happen to us and they really jolt us. But if eventually we get to the point where we say, this is an opportunity, this is a gift, this is my teacher, I can learn from this, I can grow, I can become more of what I'm meant to be, I can fulfill more of my potential if I respond to this in the right way. And so to me, all we're talking about here is a mindset and a mindset change. Because think about this. What if there are no setbacks? What if something can only be considered a setback because we have an agenda, we have a goal, we have set what we think is progress in a particular area. And so when that progress is disrupted, interrupted, there's the path change, there's an obstacle, whatever happens to be, that's what we consider to be a setback. But isn't that only in relationship to how we're defining progress, how we're defining, it's like we have certain things we want to accomplish, or we have certain things we want to do, and this is getting in our way of that. But if we were practicing non-attachment and we're really letting go and allowing, doing all we can, but allowing our lives to unfold instead of trying to control them and in some rigid way make things happen. And again, I'm not saying that we are passive or that we don't do anything. But in our doing, we're not attached to the outcome. So we do our work, we take our steps, we are traveling on this journey, we're doing all we can to grow and learn and evolve, to help others, to be a light, to do all we can, but we're letting go of, where is this path leading me? Where is this journey taking me? I don't know. Maybe that's unrealistic. Maybe that's not the thing to do. I know that there are many times where I have goals or ideals in mind, and I feel like they give me a sort of a purpose. They set a trajectory for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that can be a good, healthy practice. I think it's the attachment to that outcome, the attachment to that destination, that means that anything that is not that is short of that, or gets me off the path towards that, I'm going to see as a setback. I'm going to see it as, oh, I'm disappointed because it didn't happen like I thought it would. I didn't lead me to where, or at the pace I thought I was going to arrive there. So I think it's entirely possible that setbacks are really a result of our mindset, our desires. And we all have those. We all have desires. We all have goals. We all have things we want to do and accomplish. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think a good balance might be to have all those things, and maybe to even be driven or like really highly motivated to do certain things, or to accomplish certain things, or to, again, to go on certain journeys, to reach certain destinations. But if in the process we will simultaneously let go of our ideas of progress, of pace, oh, I got to be here by such and such a time, and there, but or I'm not, if I don't have my, in this journey, if I've not reached this part of the destination by this time, then it's a setback, or I'm running late. If we could let go of those things, let go of pace, of progress, of the destination, of our attachment to all those things, I feel like that might be a good balance, so that we can do things. We won't be passive. We'll be active. We will accomplish certain things. But if we're letting go of our attachment to that outcome, then I think we'll have more peace. I think, ironically, or maybe counterintuitively, we'll get to our destination sooner. We just won't be defining what that destination is. Are we trying to control where we're headed? Or are we allowing God, life, to lead us? Are we saying, if I don't reach a certain destination, if I don't achieve a certain goal, I'm a failure. It is a setback. And if I'm traveling and there's an obstacle or something that says, oh, yeah, guess what? The path ends here. You have to turn this direction to continue. Do I get upset? Do I get panicked? Do I get anxious? And do I see it as a setback that is my nemesis? It's my enemy, this obstacle, rather than seeing the obstacle is the way, that I am, whatever I'm encountering is an opportunity. And again, that goes back to mindset. That goes back to how we're approaching life, how we're approaching our journey. And in doing so, this notion of progress will not include setbacks. It's just the next thing that happens in the journey. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't what I planned. It wasn't what I thought was going to happen. But how boring would it be if every single thing I thought was going to happen is exactly what happens? How few opportunities would there be to grow and to evolve and to change if I could predict every single thing that was going to happen and the pace at which it was going to happen. So, in one sense, like I mentioned last week, setbacks can be something that we have to take a moment and pause and regroup and actually feel the disappointment of them, feel the letdown, deal with the discouragement. Or we might actually change our mentality and not see them as setbacks, but see them as just part of the journey, a necessary part of the journey. Now, I want to ask you to really think about, go back in time in your life, identify things that at the time you thought were setbacks, disappointments, obstacles, trials, tribulations, difficulties, challenges. Is it not true that they turned out to be a blessing, that they turned out to be an opportunity for you to grow and evolve, that you learn something? You later looking back can say, you know what, I'm actually grateful that that happened. And the plan that I had in mind would not have been as rewarding, as fulfilling. It wouldn't have helped me or allowed me to help others as much as this alternate path did. Now, maybe you can say, hey, no, I look back and I see setbacks and they were devastating and they were disappointing and I'm still not over them. Fair enough, if that's your experience. But I feel like that if we say everything is my teacher, everything is an opportunity, and maybe even especially those things that I didn't want to happen, those things that I didn't plan on, that were not part of my life goals, they this path that I was led down, it's not even on the map that I was using. Did I at that point say, wow, I'm becoming a trailblazer, I'm blazing a new path? Or did I say, oh my gosh, this is not fair, this is so hard, why do I have to go through this? Why can't I travel the same path everyone else is traveling? Maybe we flat out refuse to travel the new path. Maybe we are not where we're meant to be right now because we said, I'm not going to do it. And maybe our life's sort of been on hold or sort of stuck because we stubbornly refuse to go down the new path, the new direction. I can tell you that I, sitting here today, cannot think of anything that's happened in my life, any setback, any obstacle, any change of direction, any unexpected catastrophe, whatever it happens to be, any loss. I can't say that there aren't any of them that I didn't learn something from, that I'm not grateful for, that did not ultimately lead to something that was good for me, was a gift. That does not mean that I don't have regret. That does not mean that I don't have pain or have scars. But I can't say that I would change any so-called difficulty, obstacle, any aspect of the journey. And that doesn't mean at the moment where it happened that I wouldn't have changed it or wanted something different. But growing from it, reflecting on it, allowing it to teach me. And sometimes I am slow to learn, and sometimes I am stubborn and hard-headed, and sometimes I want my way, and I want that goal that I was striving for. And it took quite an obstacle to say, no farther. You're stopping right here. You've got to do something different. You got to change your mindset. You got to change your mentality. You got to change your approach. You got to change your direction. And sometimes that change of direction might be a U-turn. That the word that so many people throw around, religious people throw around, repentance. That means literally to change directions. It doesn't mean I'm so sorry I did wrong. It means I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do an about face and go in a different direction. Sometimes those big obstacles that say you can't go any farther on this path. This is it. And maybe we're hard-headed and we're banging our head up against that obstacle trying to get through, and it is not going to move. And maybe eventually we say, well, what other alternative do I have except to turn around and go in the other direction? To me, that's a gift. Think about, for a moment, pain. Think about the pain, specific pain in your life. Do you see pain as a gift? Because it is. There are people who have a condition that doesn't allow them to experience physical pain. And they suffer many, many injuries because the nerve endings in their bodies don't say, remove your hand from that burner or that fire or that blade or whatever it is, because they can't feel the pain. And so they suffer many injuries. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you and I experience many pains, but rather than seeing them as a gift and saying, okay, there's a reason why I'm experiencing this, there's a reason why, there's a reaction or response I need to have to this in order to learn. There's that pain is saying, do something different, go in a different direction, rather than just seeing that as a setback, rather than us seeing that as, oh my, it's just unfair and poor me, I have pain that nobody understands. Nobody can even fathom how unfair or difficult my life is. But do we see it instead as a gift that says, okay, there's a physical pain is identifying there's something wrong that needs addressing. Maybe I need to go to the doctor. Maybe I need to stop doing this activity that I'm doing that is causing me injury. Emotionally, spiritually, mentally, the same thing is true. This pain that's saying, hey, you don't need to go down this path any farther, rather than seeing that as a gift and saying, thank you, I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to go in a different direction, we say it's so unfair. We blame the pain as if it's our enemy, as if it's doing us wrong or harm, instead of it being the thing that is keeping us from harm or attempting to keep us from harm. So, mindset, mentality, our goals, our desire for a certain pace in our progress, wanting to go a certain direction, accomplish certain things. We have agendas and we say, I want this. I want to get this thing. I want to accomplish this thing. I want my life to be a certain way. And when it's not, and especially when we look at our neighbor and theirs is that way, we have to be very careful about what our mindset and mentality is right then. And are we willing to change? Are we willing to grow? And that is the question we have to ask ourselves. What is your primary goal in this life? Because if it is to accomplish certain things, reach certain destinations at a certain progress and pace, so be it. You'll live frustrated and it won't be a pleasant experience, a pleasant existence, your life. But if our primary goal is to grow and learn and evolve and become the best version of ourselves that we can be, if that overrides everything else, we will begin to embrace what we call setbacks. We will begin to embrace what we call pain, obstacles, things that are getting in our way of what we really want to happen. We'll see them as gifts. I really believe that. But it all comes down to our mindset and mentality. Anybody want to disagree with that or just chime in on anything? Help yourself.
Hey, Michael, I'm Vanessa. Okay, well, I can't do gifts, but I can do value. That an obstacle or a setback can have value. Sometimes I think it can be value added, or it may be not necessarily value added, but maybe I see someone act or be a certain way, and I know that's how I don't want to be. So I just, for me, can't use the word gift, but I can use the word value. Something that has helped me when thinking about, goals, is that if it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. And the reason why that can be so helpful is because I can do that, exactly what you described, set up these parameters. And I have a really silly story, but I had an app where my goal was to do mindful meditation daily. And this app just happened to track, each day. And so I had gotten up to, I don't know, I think it was like 152 consecutive days where I had done my goal, right? And one day something happened, totally out of the blue, and I didn't get into my routine of doing it in the morning. And then I realized at midnight I had not done my mindful meditation for the day. And this app put me back to 0. And I was so pissed. And I realized that I inadvertently had been focused on that little meter going up. And at first my reaction was just being so angry. And then I really did, that thought came through my mind, is it worth doing? If it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. And I'm like, is this worth doing? Well, hell yes. Mindful meditation, I really feel like I'm growing, evolving. It's worth doing. And that settled me in. I said, well, then I did it badly. That's okay. And it just settled me right down. And so anyway, that's something I find that helps me. I think that's my recovering perfectionism.
Mhm.
That's all I have right now. Thanks.
Great. I want to address what you said, and that is my use of the word gift. I think you're right that we have to be careful of the words we use. And there are some traumatic experiences that people have that they cannot use the word gift. Maybe it's some sort of, brutal attack of some kind where someone robbed them or raped them, or maybe it's, decades of abuse. Maybe it's trauma in childhood that, is just unimaginable. Now, it may be that later in life, through healing and approaching all these things, they can say that was a gift, but I have no problem with them saying I cannot use that word. It was not a gift. It turned out to be, because of the way I approached it, something that I learned from, that I grew from, that was valuable to me. Absolutely. That may come down to the same thing, or it may be that it's not but I have no problem with someone saying I can't call it a gift. It's a little bit like the notion of mixed blessings. And I think you could make the argument that there's like all blessings are mixed. Even people who say, oh, I'm having such success in this particular area of my life, there's a lot of challenges that come along with that come with success. And the Tao Te Ching talks about, whether you're going up or down the ladder, either way, that movement is precarious. It's just as dangerous both directions. It's just as fraught. So a lot of things that we consider blessings or successes or good things that happen to us, there's usually a shadow side. But that also means that if you reverse that, then anything that is challenging, difficult, painful, they all have a side that is opposite of the shadow, is the blessing side, is the gift side. So I want to acknowledge that using the word gift is not necessarily accurate or for everyone. We have to determine for ourselves what language we use. But my thinking is how we think about something is what's going to determine everything about it. And I can see it as a blessing, as an opportunity. Maybe we just call it that, an opportunity. And that's positive enough. We don't have to call it a gift. Thank you for adding that.
Michael, 3 words I wanted you to use were expectation,
Yes.
reality, and optimism.
Yeah, I didn't, in describing what I was talking about this morning, really all I was talking about was expectation. I just didn't use the word. But having that goal in mind and having a pace for us defining what progress is, and then us defining the pace at which we want that progress to happen toward this ultimate goal, that is nothing but expectation. You're exactly right. And so letting go of that attachment is letting go of these expectations that lead us to disappointment and what we call setbacks.
Doris Day's old song, "C'est la vie, la vie, what will be, will be."
And to me, again, this all goes back to mentality and mindset, because I think you can say those words in a I'm giving up kind of way of like I have no agency in this world. And that's not true. I think we can determine our destinies, but again, based on how we think about things. So I don't think we should be passive, as I mentioned. I don't think that arguing for letting go and following life, following the path as it unfolds instead of determining it or dictating it is a passive thing, or makes us not have any power or agency. The woo-wee or the concept of Taoism is I am swimming, I am active, I'm just swimming with the current instead of fighting against it. And that's why it seems like actionless action, effortless effort. It is effort, there's effort there, but we're in the zone, we're in the flow, we're going with what life is trying to teach us. And so therefore it seems effortless. It seems like it's like, but it's not passivity. And it's not I think some people give up, just sort of,
Mhm.
you know, and I'm not arguing for that in any way. So
Hey, Michael, one of the things that you said that really speaks to me is that if we allow it, right? That's my power, is that if I allow a setback to be an opportunity, and that really is part of the power that I can own, is that I can allow it. And I also ran across this quote that I thought was really good. It says, I don't let the past define my life, let it inform my life. So that's taking those opportunities, not to define my life, but to inform me. And that's where I think that the value lies, with and where the opportunity lies, but I have to allow it. And anyway, I really liked that. Thank you.
thank you.
And be careful what you strive for. There's always the story of the lottery winners that wish they never won.
Absolutely.
Not so black and white, right?
Yeah.
You think that
Yeah.
that would solve all your problems, and you win the lottery and you have a whole host of new problems.
That's right. And you know, they've done so many studies that someone who is miserable and ungrateful and unhappy, and you know, they win the lottery and they are happy. They get everything is fantastic for about 6 months. And then they go back to where they were. And someone who's upbeat and happy and takes that approach to life and loses everything, they have a jolt, they have a moment of, you know, but again, about 6 months, it levels out where they're back to their way of living. Money's not going to change, you know, even difficulties, you know, hurricanes that blow in and mess things up, or losses. They may rock us momentarily, but we will get back to that mean of our existence. And that's what's so important. That's why that's what we need to be working on at all times, is us being in the right place, so that whatever happens in life, and I almost said, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, but there is no good or bad or indifferent depending on how we approach it. It just is. It's just, this is just what's happening. If I want to call it bad or good, or this is a blessing and this is a curse, and you know, this is a gift and this is a loss or a tragedy, that's me defining it. And that's how we approach things, and how we're thinking about things is what determines the very quality of our lives. And I think that's so important.
Optimism. Gotta have it.
And yet, and I agree, and I'm a very optimistic person, have been my entire life, but that relates to the earlier word you used, which is expectation. And our optimism can get us in trouble because I have lived a life of high expectations, starting from, I would say, adolescence, you know, maybe childhood, but where I was aware of it from adolescence on. And I have, the older I get, adjusted those expectations, adjusted that optimism, or that whatever word you want to use, to, and it brings a certain level of peace and calm and acceptance. And acceptance is the key to peace. So I think we should be optimistic, but it's also a danger. It's also we got to be careful as it relates to our expectations. And if we unless something is the actual last final thing that we ever do or that ever happens to us, it's not the last word. It's not final. So it's not even a setback. So we were hoping to get to here today, and instead we get here, or we get here and have to stop and go back. That's just the next part of the journey. That's the next phase. It's not a setback. It's not a loss. It's not a final anything unless it is the final thing. There's always the next step. There's always tomorrow. There's always the opportunity to make things better. And just recently, I mean, this happens in my life all the time, but I've experienced things that I thought were setbacks and felt them like, oh man, I'm disappointed. I didn't want that particular thing to happen. I wanted this to happen. But when I changed my mentality, when I accepted it, and when I said, okay, you know, the kids, you put one kid in one room and one kid in another, and the
Horse manure.
full of horse shit. And the one kid is digging through it, searching, and I say, what in the world are you doing? They're like, I'm looking for the pony. There's got to be a pony in here. When I changed my mindset and accept it and face it that way, there's a blessing in here. There's a gift in here. There's an opportunity in here. There's value in here. And the word you use, think about it, you use the word manure.
Mhm.
That's a great value. Manure is great value, right? So again, how do we approach it? How are we looking? What is our mindset and mentality? We got a couple, like a minute. Anybody have a last comment or anything they want to say?
Well, I just would caution, because I think there's a thing called toxic positivity. And I think what you said was so valuable, that you may feel disappointment, you may feel upset and anger. That's just not where we live. We realize that it's a part of a life. This is an opportunity. This is just the next part of the life experience, and move on. But it's not telling us we have to be delighted,
Right.
especially right off the bat,
Right.
So I like that. A lot of reality, no pressure there.
Toxic positivity is shallow. It's not rooted in anything real. And so it's pretend, and it's, I have to be positive all the time. I have to smile. Thank y'all so much for being here. I know it's going to cut us off at any moment. So I hope y'all have a great week. And I hope to see you next week.
Have a great week.
Great topic.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.